Hello, love. So, this is a story. I am woman. Hear me roar. I truly, madly, passionately, deeply believe that the feminine energy is going to play such a vital role. Ladies, we have been suppressed, oppressed for ages, and we are here to rewrite that code. So, I am the wild child rebel, enlightened one that nobody saw coming. And I'm going to tell you how intense spirit has led me through ages. This is the story that needed to be born today. Out of all the wildest stories in my life, I'm going to start with this one. This is raw. This is intense. This is an invitation for you to go and sit at God's feet and say, listen, Lord, this weird thing has happened. Why? Because I'm going to tell you my story and then I'm going to tell you what God has revealed to me about being a light worker, about how our stories was woven from the beginning. Okay. At this point in my life, I don't speak with any of my family members. I want to start here. Let's rewind to lockdown. Things always felt off in my family life. It was almost as if they were preaching love, but I never felt it. Like when I watched The Handmaid's Tales of Mary Atwood, I think sorry guys, Margaret Atwood, which is also a very profound name. Mary, Margaret, Magdalene. It's always, then we must pay attention, just by the by. When I watched The Handmaid's Tales and they were like reciting all of these things, God bless you and may the weather carry you, and then the next moment they are torturing these girls, my soul gagged. My soul puked inside of me in that one scene, which I'm not going to go into. So they will proclaim sanity and holiness and God, and then behind back doors, they would do the most vicious atrocity acts to these people in the name of religion. So that has been the common thread in my life. Like, I love God, I hate religion. So lockdown was this beautiful opening, and um, for me, and before I forget, let's just jump back. While I was talking to God, like about what does this all mean, He said, "Listen to this. This was so profound for me." I said, "Do you have an opinion on the lockdown? Why happened? Because we've all heard the conspiracy theories and things like this, and this was like, oh, my soul sighed." And yes, I have an opinion on the COVID area. Jesus said, it was never about a virus. It was an energetic initiation, a collective pause, a global ceremony of endings and beginnings disguised as a health crisis. Some used it to fall asleep in fear. That's why so many people are so stuck in media currently. Others, like you, used it to awaken into love and grief and rage and remembering. You became a sacred ground for alchemy. Alchemy. Okay, so in any case, lockdown happened. I've always felt that something was off in my family. Like literally, there was something, but I couldn't put my finger on it. It was one of those like we had clothes, we were going to church, our school fees was paid, but there was like no love, like literally, like okay. But in any case, but I couldn't ever put my finger on it. And I've got two younger brothers, so I would always ask them like, "What do you say?" And they're like, "Yeah, but it's the same in every family." And I'm like, "No, it's not the same in every family." So I've always been the wild child. My poor parents. I've Shame. But in any case, so lockdown happened, and as a lockdown, the first clue for me was all of these ex-lovers started calling me, and I started soaking up all of this love in the lockdown. Like, I can literally remember in South Africa we've got domestic workers, so we're not really used to cleaning our houses. It's a very big energetic shift here in South Africa, because I realized we're not going to have like slaves in our house anymore soon, as if we ever were allowed to. So, but in any case, so with lockdown, we were all stuck because we didn't have domestic workers. Like, literally, for my international listeners, we would trade wine, cigarettes, and housekeepers here like it was royalty. Like, the underground channels and mafias we opened up, like in that period, we were so creative, South Africans. But in any case, so because I did not have a domestic worker, and because from the moment I opened up my eyes, like, I was born and bred, or not, I was born in Pretoria, then I was raised in the platteland, in the countryside, in Free State. And back then, late 80s, early 90s, it was normal for a middle income family. We had two domestic workers to clean our house. We were a family of five. Like, literally, I think the first time I had to make my bed, I was like in varsity, just to give you an idea. Never washed the dishes, never vacuumed, nothing. None of that. It was all done for us. Like, literally, that's why Woolies is only flourishing now, Woolworths, because back then we all had two domestic workers that did all the chopping for us. So my mom would arrive and she would have a whole Woolies spread, all the chopped vegetables, and she would just swish it around in the pot and would say, "There you go, guys. Lunch is served." And all she did, she just added oil. Like, literally, we are so spoiled. So lockdown with no domestic help, we were all like, "Oh shucks, what? Hoe werk 'n stofsuier?" Like, literally, like, how do I iron? And I can remember I had this intense discussion about vaccinations, politically inspired, with my ex-boyfriend, shout out, a Canadian, and he's an astronomer. While I was eat, pray, loving my way through lockdown, I was sitting on my bum, scrubbing the floors, my terracotta tiles in my kitchen, like with a little nail brush, because then die gogga het my gebyt. Then the curiosity started, like, ooh, cleansing is godly. This is a moment for us to cleanse our souls. And and now, on reflection, I realized I had all of this love surrounding me, but in lockdown, I also realized who was quiet, like my dad. My mom has already been passed away for a long time by then. He was married again. And I realized, whoa, if I've got ex-boyfriends calling me from all across the globe, just like in that moment of lockdown, are you okay? Do you have food? Do you have something? Because everybody knows I'm all alone in this world. Like, literally, I'm not married. Um, so everybody just checked in on me, like, are you okay? And in that period, I had nothing from my dad. I can still remember I called him and he didn't even answer. And typically me, Oprah Winfrey style, God loves my melodramatic side. The world doesn't know it. Like, literally, if you know the tantrums that I have given to God, like, literally, I will not do this, like this, with lots of respect and lots of reverence. But we are allowed to argue with God. So it was in one of those moments where I was like, Lord, he's not even contacted me. And I threw a massive tantrum. And I started putting like candle lights all around me. And I played songs and I lied, ek het hier op die vloer gelê and I cried like a baby. And I was like, I will never have the dad who cares. And I'm 38 years old and I'm only realizing it now. So I had my first breakdown and I wrote him a letter and I was like, I I am having a funeral in my head for you now because for me to keep these expectations, for you to just call me, where people would call me from the other side of the globe who I've only kissed once with all of these warmth and caring, and you've shared a lifetime with me and you don't even know if I've got food in my house. And literally at that stage I did not have an income. I did live on social means, like literally. Ek het op kospakkies gelewe, mense. I was on charity. And then when my dad did make contact after the funeral, he said, guess what? I bought a new bull bar for my car. It cost 10,000 rand. And I bought my wife a brand new car cash. But in that moment where I hosted a funeral, where I buried my dad and all the expectations for him just to care for me, something broke in the spiritual realm. This was around June, July, where I hosted a funeral in my head. The next day, I called the counselor and I said, listen, I had a meltdown and I had a funeral for my dad. I buried him. And she said, it's a very good prophetic action. Like literally, if your soul is so meltdown, you can do, it's allowed to do ceremonies for yourself. Like, but this is the first time ever that I'm speaking aloud out of this. And this is 5 years later. So this was not something that I would advise. Me and my counselor knows. I don't even think she remembers it. But I got that validation. And after that as well, I just want to point this out. There was this one moment where I was already seeing through the veil. Like my dad was here just to serve his purpose, to do quite amazing things for me, which I will recount now. But he says he served his purpose. He is not going to play an active role. So there was this beautiful 2 years of me closing down the conversations, like really just double checking, like, Lord, if I'm being a selfish brat, because my dad would always say you're so ungrateful, and a part of that stuck with me. So there was a period of experimenting, like, Lord, if I'm wrong, if I'm not honoring my mother and father, please give me a sign, like things like that. And I can remember during these negotiations with God and me emancipating myself from that toxicity, there was this one conversation where, and this is really at the end, like I've set my ultimatum with my dad and I said, we need professional help because when we're together, we're toxic and I don't want that energy in my life anymore. But actually, what it translated with, you abandoned me and you just didn't want to take any responsibility. And I'm not going to continue playing this game with you where I'm supposed to act out the role of the perfect daughter and you're supposed to act out the role of the crappiest father. I don't want to do that anymore. That's done. That's in the past now. And in during these conversations, so I said, and then my dad said, no, but I still want to see you. And I was like, I want to see you as well, but let's just get this relationship fixed and then we can continue. And he never came to the party. He said he doesn't need any professional help. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need any toxicity. So this is the crossroads where we are right now. And that's why I've not spoken to any of them. But getting back, so June, July, hosted the funeral. Then later on, my dad said, ooh, that was in the last conversations. I don't want you to stand at my open grave and then have regrets. And I was like, if you know all the regrets I've already buried, like I'm done. Me and heaven has already had this conversation. To me, my expectations of a perfect father has died. I've resurrected during the lockdown. So I did this let's have a funeral for my dad in my head. And then the first visit, obviously he felt the energy shift. So then he was like, big hoo-ha. We miss you. We want to come and see you. We will come and stay, because I stay in a very small little flat. So he knows that I don't have any additional living arrangements for anyone. And it was like, we won't even book ourselves into a hotel. That's what they usually do. And we will come and camp in your backyard, which sounds so, guys, the disillusionment I had with that visit. I was like, yes, Lord, you've answered my prayers. My love language is time. My dad just wanted to spend time with me. So I showed up all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like, yay, miracles happen. My dad is aligned. We're gonna have this relationship I've always craved for. He's gonna come and camp with me after the lockdown. And then it was just afterwards I realized it was just for him to brag. Additionally to the new bull bar, his wife's new car, they also bought a new eco caravan in the lockdown period, and he wanted to come and show me this lockdown caravan. I was heartbroken. There was no words. I went into crying for 3 days after that visit. And still now I'm saying it with a huge throb in my throat, like the disappointment I had in that moment of, they are not here for me. They are here for me to show off the new caravan. I can still recall, I was like, I'm so glad to see you guys. Like literally I was like this little girl after going through the war, oorlog, and coming back home, and you're expecting your dad to run out and greet you. And like the greeting was like, oh yeah, is that your neighbors? Call them. I want to show them our caravan. And then the first hour of this beautiful dance was my dad showing off all the drawers, opening up clothes in his eco caravan. So obviously then ek was befok. I was like, okay, this is not about me. This is just another enlightenment lesson. And here's where the punchline comes in, guys. So my dad started making this joke twice with me. He's like, I hope you are not throwing your panties into the fire anymore. So at this stage, the poor fellow, he's not realized, listen, dude, I have spoken to the divine about you. And all you can remember was something I did 20 years ago in my rawest, most vulnerable, earth shattering, death of innocence moment. So he made this joke twice. And then obviously I did what any normal girl would do. I ran with this joke to many counselors. And then it was like, oh, but this is a little bit of literally like sexual kind of abuse. So what happened? When I was 13 years old, and this is where I said my parents have had their role. Because if I look back on my life now, the amount of road trips that we've gone to, and all of those were like activation points in my life. That's what I realize now. That's where I've always loved geometry. Like I've always, if you want to, like everybody would always say, Nadia, word net vir my bietjie stiller, nee? Like literally I can remember as a little child, if my mom wanted to punish me, she would say on a road trip, kom ons speel stil speletjie. Guys, that was crap, that was hell, because I'm very opinionated. I always have to say my say, and I'm very competitive. So then I had to like, okay, am I going to win or am I going to say my say? Am I going to win or am I going to say my say? Like literally, that was, I think, the toughest part of my childhood, like still speaking. But in any case, so my parents took us as a family. Like literally, that was like our family trips. But I was 20 years old and I've seen Richtersveld, Kahuku the Wild Coast, Comores, Mauritius, the whole of Namibia, the whole of Zimbabwe, the whole of um, a part of Angola, Botswana, Mozambique, up to Malawi. I mean, who's done that? 20 years old. Crisscrossed across the whole South Africa, the whole basically southern part of Africa. I've seen it. 20 years old. So, except Madagascar, but in any case. So, back to where this joke came from. 13 years old, my dad had just bought, that's where his journey started with off road caravans. He was a man with all the gadgets and all the toys. We as a family, he just read in the getaway about the Okavango Delta. And we as this very young family missioned up like voortrekkers up to Okavango Delta. Beautiful scenery. So looking back now when I'm like got clarity, I can remember all the animals acted out around us. Like literally, that was the first time that I heard the word bastard. We were waking up and we were like the first pioneers. This was back in 1996, guys, just to place the record for all my wanderlust homophilio travelers around us. Back in 1996, Okavango Delta was not commercial yet. It was so rural. Like there was like one or two flashy hotels where the likes of Liv Taylor and people like that has already activated those areas. They've already visited it, but it was, I'm talking under correction, but it was about like 20,000 Rand per night to sleep in one of those hotels. So it was very rural. It was very pristine. 1996, the first pioneers. Nobody has really visited Okavango in a long time. And we went there. Die 5 oberholzers van Welkom af. And still now today, guys, my dad would announce himself and introduce himself. And yes, he's still alive and well and kicking and very asleep. But in any case, he would announce himself. He's a doctor. Hello, I am Dr. from Welkom. Like, as if it was like a good statement. Like, later on, I was like, please just stop saying that. Like, but in any case, so we were this odd family. I'm sure the angels back then, hulle het hulle gat afgelag for these 5 clumsy people. So we missioned up, tracked up to Okavango. I'm 13 years old. I think my dad got the off-road caravan 2 hours before we went on the trip. Like, we didn't know how anything worked. He doesn't know how to put it in 4x4, but we are up in Okavango Delta. I was raised by Rambo, like literally, I don't have fear, and that's due to my dad. Like, he was like, I read it in the getaway. Me and my young family, we're going to track up with no excavation plan, nothing. I mean, there weren't helicopters if one of us got injured. He took this big noodle first aid bag. That was always the first thing in the car. Like I said, he's a dentist. The first thing in the car was the groot noodhulptas. So he was fully rigged, but that was us. My baby brother at that stage was 6 years old, guys, and we are up. Okavango. And then I'm 13 years old. I'm getting my first period ever. So, girls, you know the first one. It's heavy. It's like Victoria Falls. You feel dirty. You've got your whole world is shook. Like, I knew that this is going to happen, but now it's happening. Now I'm big. Now what now? Everybody, it's like really a very big, that's a lockdown for a young little girl, basically. And we are up there. Like, there's no shower, there's no running water. Nobody thought about, like, we are taking a teenager up in the deepest, darkest areas of Africa. Like, maybe she'll start having a period. No. Nothing. And we jumped into one of the spaza shops up there. Now, the spaza shops back in the 90s in rural Botswana was like literally a shack, like 3 stall plotter packed like that. Behind a table, there's sitting someone there. You got a little bit of coffee, mampoer, matches, and baby diapers. So the young family from Balcom, and if I'm saying young, I was born when they were 18. So they were 30 years old. I mean, yes, the balls on that guy, Rambo. So we bought these disposable baby diapers for me. I'm 13 years old. My baby brother is 6 years old. The poor little dude probably also had his innocence rocked because my mom did not have the birds and the bees talk to him. And all of a sudden, his older sister is with like blood everywhere. And then the animals started acting weirdly. Like, that's where I heard the word bastard for the first time. Like, what young family once again, very curious, very enlightened already. And we can just remember we were camping on the shores of Botswana, and across the Chobe River, it was Namibia. So there was this African American dude staying in Namibia, working in Botswana, and every morning he would row across the Chobe River with his makuru, like a canoe, a hold out tree stump. And then in this morning, we just woke up with, "You fucking bastard!" My poor mom. Shame. I'm getting so much empathy for them. Like, literally, both, we were 3 children. My middle brother is a typical middle child, always quiet. Both me and my brother, baby brother, like, immediately waking up. Casper is like, "What's fucking?" And I'm like, "What's bastard?" Then the hippo flipped the Makoru of this dude. And he was in life and death danger. Like, literally, a portal of death opened up, like literally next door to our tent. We are there alone. He swears at the hippo, gets out, gets the canoe, gets back in, row back to Botswana side. And if I look back on that now, like, there was all of these animals like acting out the whole time because I was having this most beautiful initiation. So me wearing disposable diapers, we went for 3 weeks like in Botswana. So obviously each one of us, we only had like a small little bag of like 3 panties, 2 shorts. I mean, space was limited. And I ran out of panties in the 3rd minute of menstruating. And eventually I got so fed up because they weren't even running water. I started throwing all of these soaked materials in the fire. I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to wash this. My baby brother, 6 years old, is like witnessing his older sister, and we only had 2 panties, and they had 2 onderbroekies in, like, literally, and my mom speeches. She's like, "You're going to wash those things yourself. I'm not going to be your maid." And we were like, good little soldiers. "Yes, mom. Yes, mom." And then the next moment, my brother is like, "Oh, she has gone full rebel now. She's burning her clothes." And that's the joke. Because my brother went to my mom like, Mom, she's burning her clothes. She's burning her clothes. My mom just laughed. Casper was like, "Oh, wow, can we do this as well?" The next moment, he wanted to throw his clothes in the fire. Obviously, they're like, no, 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 no. So it was this big cosmic joke. But what literally happened, I was in the most rural, unnatural part of the world. And I was sacrificing this womanhood back to Africa. I never looked for it. I always loved God. This is so weird. This is not at all the kind of awakening. I want to say it over and over again that I expected. That even small little moments like this is not nothing. God has amazed me in this past 2 weeks more than I could have ever expected in my wildest dreams. That even a moment like my worst, this is also another download that I've been receiving about womanhood. The shame, because up until this morning, this was the most shameful story that has ever happened to me. And now, if I look back, I'm like, oh, it all happened for me. I'm in such reverent awe. And the tides are turning. Our worst shame is going to be transmuted through the fire. My crazy story. Just another last saucy input. The clitoris is the only organ with one function. And the only function is to give us, ladies, pleasure. Men don't have a clitoris. They've got something similar. The foreskin, that's why that needs to be circumcised, one of the many reasons. But the tip of the penis and the clitoris is made of the same tissue. But the tip of the penis, even though it can give the same pleasure than the clit, it's not as advanced. The female clit has got 8,000 nerve endings. So I've done reflexology before, where it's got 7,000 nerve endings in the feet, and each one are attached to healing. That's why you do reflexology. But with a clitoris, it's just for pleasure. That's how special we ladies are. And the men don't have an organ in their body just for pleasure. They can feel more or less the same, but not the same as us. Like literally, that's the purpose of a clitoris. It's like delight. And why do you think the most pristine, the holy grail of our bodies are right next door to the sewage plantation? The best of us is right next door to the worst of us. Because it's in the mud, it's in the shame where we find the beauty.